Yeah, you got some purple going there this morning, huh? Okay. Got it. Well, good morning. It is a holiday weekend, and that will be one of the reasons why I thought it might be good for us to have a review here at the end of our study on the Old Testament. We breeze through the Old Testament this quarter, and starting next Sunday morning, we will be breezing through the New Testament, a little more familiar territory. But today we're going to throw out lots and lots of questions, and it's not quite like you would see on Jeopardy, where you answer with a question. I'm just asking questions and you can answer. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to divide up the group into half. So Reuben and you guys are just going to be split down the middle, okay? All right, just kidding. We'll just have a free-for-all. I don't want Reuben and Rosillo to be divided today, so we'll just keep everybody together. How are y'all this morning? Well, good. I'm hoping these questions will help reinforce that you know a lot about the Old Testament. And as is typical with a Jeopardy game, you have the easier questions at the start. You can go and put the board up. That would be great. I would encourage you not to be like some of these knucklehead teenagers who say, I'll start with the $500 questions, and then they can't answer them, or not as easily. And that's the main criticism I get when I do something like this. People say that $100 question is a lot harder than you think it is. So hopefully not. But again, I hope this will be encouragement. The kids love games. The little secret is, so do we adults. We like them too. So, okay, all right, let's see. Who would like to start? You know how this works. You got all these categories. Let's go through the categories. I guess I messed up there. So everybody knows what the categories are. Genesis 1 through 11. Remember, that's a complete section in and of itself. And then chapters 12 through 50. We'll ask some questions on both parts. Remember, Genesis 12 through 50 has Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and then Joseph. All right, then we're going to cover Exodus through Judges. I know that's a lot of material. Just have a few questions about that. The United Kingdom and what follows the United Kingdom, the divided kingdom, and one more category, Job through Malachi. Wait a minute, I also have another, don't I? No, that's it. Okay, so the books of poetry and the books of prophecy, just 5 questions. So not very representative. And hopefully this will be a good review for us. So let's get started. What do you want? Yes, sir. 200. Genesis 1 through 11 for 200. Okay. All right. What sign did God give Noah that he would never destroy the world with a flood again? What is a rainbow? Oh boy, isn't that great? Where is that recorded? If I wanted to read about Noah, where would I go in the Bible? You just thought this was a simple little deal. This is a review. Remember, there are 5 stories in Genesis 1 through 11. The first one is creation, Genesis 1. Adam and Eve, that would include the fall, Genesis 2 and 3. What happened in chapter 4? Cain and Abel. Noah is next. What chapters talk about Noah? 6 through 9. It's the longest of these 5. And then there's just a short little one that's 9 verses in chapter 11. What's it about? The Tower of Babel. Creation, Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, Noah and the flood, and then the Tower of Babel. That's, I hope, helpful so that you can say, I know exactly where that is in my Bible. It's in Genesis 1 through 11. And if you want to study about the flood, it's 6 through 9. And when God made the covenant with humanity, that's recorded after the flood in Genesis 9. All right, what's next? You got the floor there, buddy. For 300, okay. Who was the first murderer? Cain, okay. We won't go over any more than that. What's next? 100. Let's pick up that poor little fella. See, this is easy. Super easy. You know the answer to this one. Gail.
Oh
no.
Oh, thank you.
Who were the first humans? Adam and Eve. Yay, you're off the hook now.
All right,
okay. I don't like singling people out. I know some teachers do, Larry, who just like to call on people very specifically. I don't make a habit of that unless it's super duper easy. What's next? All right, let's finish 1 through 11 then. Who were the first two? I'm sorry, this is 400, remember? This is a little harder. What were the first two questions asked in the Bible? Singular, Bible. I'll give you a hint. God is the one who asked them. Where are you? And what did you do? I'm just thinking, maybe that's wrong. Didn't Satan ask questions too? Yes. What were the first questions God asked in the Bible? Yeah, I messed up. Satan did ask questions there in the garden. 500. What was the Bible's first prophecy? Did y'all hear that? What was the first prophecy in the Bible? Don't answer, honey. What was it? Yes, sir. All right, so Genesis 3:15. He shall bruise your head and you shall bruise his heel. What is so significant about Genesis 3:15? When God is talking to the serpent in the garden, he is meting out punishment, and he starts with the serpent. So he first talked to Adam, then Eve, then the serpent, and he gives the punishment in reverse order. The serpent, Eve, and then Adam. And when he says to the serpent, I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed, he shall bruise your head, you shall bruise his heel. Why is that so significant? Who is that ultimately looking to? Jesus. How did Satan bruise Christ's heel? The crucifixion, but how in turn did Christ crush the head of Satan? The resurrection. Excellent. That is the first Bible prophecy. It's about the scheme of redemption. And that's why it is such a powerful, beautiful verse. All right, let's move on to a new category. Let's mix it up a little bit. What you got? All right, let's go to the United Kingdom. How long was the period of the United Kingdom? How many years? 120 years. Explain. All right, 40 years for Saul, 40 years for David, 40 years for Solomon. Isn't that easy? That's something you know that you can remember, and it will be very, very helpful to us. David would date to around 1000 BC. His reign was from 1010 to 970 BC. In case you're wondering about some of that, we've got this workbook that goes over all these facts that we're looking at and emphasizes Genesis 3:15, for example. I think most of us are already familiar with this, and we'll be looking at the New Testament lessons next quarter. All right, you want to do United 200? Okay. Who was David's best bud? Jonathan. Okay. There's speculation, I'm not 100% certain, but it seems that Jonathan was next in line to the throne. I think there was an older brother who would have. And that's what makes it all the more remarkable that Jonathan helped David. Because David was not the son of Saul, and yet he was loved by Jonathan, by Jonathan's sister Michal. Remember, they got married. The people loved David, but who didn't love David? Saul. That's right. All right, what's next? Pick anything you want. What do you want? Exodus for 100. Let's start with the easy Exodus. How did God first appear to Moses? The burning bush. Excellent. The burning bush, that would be in Exodus chapter 3. Exodus 1 tells us about the birth of Moses, the circumstances that he was in. Exodus 3 and 4 go together. How many excuses did Moses make to God? I don't want to go back to Egypt because made 4. The 5th excuse would be, I just don't want to go. Lord, send someone else. But God got angry with him, didn't he? You're going, okay? You're going. What's next? Job to Malachi for how much? For how much? 5. Oh, not one of these. I hope you don't. Who are the leaders of the 3 returns from Babylon? The Jewish leaders. When they returned from Babylon, who were the leaders for the first deportation? Before Ezra. The book of Ezra begins to talk about Ezra in chapter 7. In chapters 1 through 6, it talks about Zerubbabel. He is called the governor of Judea, or Judah. At the time, it's called Judah. And by the way, Zerubbabel, who was he related to? David. Now, Ezra and Nehemiah were not. So the first deportation was led by Zerubbabel. The second deportation, Ezra. And the third deportation, Nehemiah. Does that make sense? The first 6 chapters of Ezra talk about Zerubbabel, 7 through, I don't remember how many chapters there are in Ezra right now. The rest of the book focus on Ezra, and Nehemiah and Ezra were contemporaries. I'd like to think they were buddies. The story of Esther. Remember, I mentioned this once. Chronologically, Esther, her story fits between chapters 6 and 7 of Ezra, between Zerubbabel's governorship and then by the time that Ezra comes on the scene. If that's helpful, I hope you can remember that. That's where Esther belongs chronologically. It'd be almost like we're going through the books of the Bible and Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon. Well, those are ahead. I'm ahead of myself. You got Ezra A, Ezra B, Nehemiah, but it should go Ezra A, Esther, Ezra B. We'll finish the story, and maybe that'll help jog your memory for the time period. She was a queen of Persia. All right. Yes. Did I hear somebody? I thought I heard somebody holler something out. All right. What's next? For 100. Who were the first 3 fathers of the nation of Israel? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. See how much you know? Excellent. Let's go back. 200. Let's do 200. What were the 3 promises made to the 3 fathers? Land, nation, and sea. The land of Israel, Canaan, the nation of Israel, and who ultimately was the seed promise fulfilled in? Jesus, ultimately in Jesus. Land, nation, and seed. 3 promises made to 3 fathers. Were those promises actually repeated in Genesis to each of the fathers? Yes. You can read about God repeating all those promises to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Jacob's name was changed to what? Israel, and that's why they're called the Israelites rather than the Jacobites. All right. Let's do 300 then. Why did Esau, who's Esau? Why did Esau want to murder Jacob? Oh, you say that Jacob stole Esau's birthright. But what does the last verse of chapter 25 say? Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and ate and drank and rose and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Where does it say in the Bible Jacob stole the birthright from Esau? It doesn't. Now, we say he did, but through trickery. Yes, ma'am. He also stole the Abrahamic blessing. And those were made distinct. It wasn't just an inheritance. And so it is through the line of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and his 12 sons that we have Jesus descend. Could have been Esau. Why should it have been Esau? Because he was the firstborn by just a little bit. They were twins, you remember. Were they identical twins? How do you know they weren't identical twins? Because Jacob was smooth, skinned as a baby, and Esau, he came out hairy and red. And Edom means red. What does Esau mean? Sounds like the word for hairy. Not Harry, but Hairy. All right. You pick. What do you want? You want another 500 one?
Yeah,
Exodus 500. What did the Israelites do for 2 years at Mount Sinai? This is important. You need to know this. I think it's important. What 3 things did they do? All right. When Israel came out of Egypt, they went to Mount Sinai. Where were they hoping to go very, very quickly, very soon? To go to Canaan and do what? Conquer it. But they didn't. And what they first did, this was God's plan. They went to Mount Sinai, and for 2 years, they did 2 things. What did you say, Melanie? They built the tabernacle, and they established the priesthood. Those go hand in hand, don't they? You need the priesthood for the tabernacle, and you need the tabernacle so that the priests who are sinners can be freed from sin themselves and then offer sacrifices on behalf of the people. In our study on Wednesday night, we're talking a little bit about the tabernacle and the temple, and we'll get to it not this Wednesday, but the next Wednesday. The tabernacle is also called the tent of meeting, sanctuary. Who met there with the priests? God himself, and that's why it's called the tent of meeting. Okay. Exodus 200. Exodus through Judges 200. Who saved the 2 spies sent by Joshua? I guess that should have been the $100 question. Rahab the harlot. Why is that so important? 1, she's a Gentile. 2, she's a prostitute. And 3, she is in Jesus' genealogy. What does that tell you about God and his interest in non-Jews and Gentiles? He's God over all. And coming up soon, actually next Sunday, we're going to start a study of Joshua and Judges in 1 quarter on Sunday nights. And we're going to spend some time talking about Rahab and how significant it is that a Gentile became a citizen of God's people. All right, what's next? Exodus 300. Here's the question. When is it ever going to stop raining? What 2 bodies of water did the Israelites cross miraculously? Remember, this is Exodus through Judges we're talking about here. What 2 bodies of water? The Red Sea and the Jordan. Tell me about that. Who led them across the Red Sea? Moses. Who led the Israelites across the Jordan River? Joshua. Where was Moses when they crossed the Jordan? He was dead. He was the mountains of Pisgah. So he had passed from the scene. And this is very significant. And these 2 events are often linked together. For example, in the Psalms, they occur a lot. They're referenced a lot in the Psalms. 2 very significant events. We have another crossing in the Old Testament where a prophet crossed the Jordan River miraculously. He took his cloak and he struck the water and crossed across. Okay. And ascended to heaven. Who was that? Elijah. And then we have another prophet who was with him walk across with that same cloak, strike the Jordan, and walk across it. Who was that? Elisha. So you've got these crossings, and they're very significant in the Bible. Good. All right, what's next? So let's finish Exodus for 400. Who asked for Exodus 500 at this? Oh, that's right. That was you. Let's see if you can get this one, Ricardo. Why did the first generation of Israelites wander in the wilderness for 40 years? All right, they sinned against God. Be more specific. They were idol worshipers. God was awful upset about that. But what is the event in Numbers 13 and 14 where God said, that's it? So that in chapter 13, they sent 12 spies in. And then how many of those 12 spies said, we can take the land with God's help. We can do it. 2, the 10 spies said, we can't. Which of groups, the 2 or the 10, did the nation of Israel listen to? The 10. That's really the last straw. Yes, the idol worship, the lack of faith in God as they were wandering in the wilderness, all that was very upsetting to the Lord. But ultimately it was when they said, we can't take the land, we can't do it. I know God made this promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but we can't do it. How many days were the spies, that original group, not the 2 that Joshua sent, how many days were the 12 spies in the land? 40. And how does that affect the wilderness wandering? God said 40 days, 40 years. It's actually 38 years. Why is it 38? This is Exodus for 600. Why was it actually 38 years? I don't think I even mentioned this. All right, they had already spent 2 years building the tabernacle and establishing the priesthood. See how I reviewed there? And so God tacked on another 38 years. And that generation, that first generation, died. Do you remember when that first generation said, oh, God sent us into the wilderness to kill us. We're going to die. Our children are going to die. And what did God say? Your children aren't, but you will. And that second generation, that magnificent second generation under the leadership of Joshua, they entered the land and they conquered it. Third generation didn't do so well, though, in the period of Judges. You had a hand? Sorry, I'm in the doghouse. All right, what's next? Divided kingdom, that poor divided kingdom. 100? Okay. This may not be a $100 question, but oh well. How many kings in the northern kingdom were, this is good. How many of the kings in the northern kingdom had smiles on their faces? Remember that chart we looked at? None. We can go to this back room here. It's got that chart with all the kings. And if they were good, they have a smile. And if they were bad, they had a sad face. No kings of the northern kingdom were righteous. Not one. Can you name me some of the kings of the southern kingdom who were good? There weren't many. You started out pretty good. Good King Hezekiah, he kind of sticks out as very faithful. Josiah, you didn't have very many. They started out well, not Rehoboam, but Asa, Jehoshaphat, they were commended. Who are the kings of the southern kingdom always compared to? The southern kingdom of Judah. These kings, whenever they would talk about them, they would compare them to David and say, oh, he did like David did, or somewhat like David did. Who are the kings of the northern kingdom always compared to? Jeroboam and the idol worship, and it was never favorable. Okay, what's next? Genesis 12 through 50, 400. Okay, talking about Joseph now. Genesis 37 through 50. List the 3 pairs of dreams Joseph interpreted. There are 3 pairs of dreams. In Genesis 37, what was the first pair? Right. Who dreamed the first pair? Joseph dreamed the first pair, and what were they? the sheaves of grain and the stars, bowing down to Joseph's star. And there were, in addition to the stars, there were 11 stars bowing down to Joseph's star. And there was also the sun and the moon, his parents, is how they interpreted that. And then the sheaves of grain, all these sheaves of grain, it's a dream, remember? Okay, that's the first pair. What was the second pair? All right, the baker and the butler, the chief cupbearer, the chief baker. They had similar dreams, and they go together, but they had opposite ends. What was the favorable one? The cupbearer. What did he dream? What did he have in his hand? Grapes, and he squeezed the grapes, gave it to Pharaoh, and the interpretation was Pharaoh's going to lift up your head and restore you. And then the baker's sitting there going, oh, that turned out great. That's good. Let me tell you my dream. And it didn't turn out favorable for him. Pharaoh's going to lift up your head and cut it off. And the number 3 was prominent in them because it was going to be in 3 days, which happened to be somebody's birthday. It was Nikki's birthday. No, not your birthday. That was yesterday. Pharaoh's birthday, and worked out that way. Do you remember what Joseph asked the cupbearer to do for him? Remember me. And the text says very specifically that the butler, the chief cupbearer, forgot. 2 years later, somebody else has a pair of dreams. And who is that? Pharaoh himself. And what were his dreams? Remember, these are dreams. You can do anything you want in your dreams. They're weird. Cows. And you have these 7 beautiful cows coming up out of the Nile River. And you have these 7 skinny, I mean, you don't have any skinny, awful cows around where you live, do you? Periodically, okay. Do they eat the other cows? No. And after the skinny cows, I mean, they're just sickly, eat the strong, beautiful, healthy cows. What then happens to those 7 scrawny cows? You couldn't tell they'd eaten anything. And then the similar dream, there were 7 cows. What did those 7 represent? 7 years. And then it's made more certain, Joseph said, because it's repeated. Now, it also plays into the story because you have pairs of dreams, 2 pairs of dreams. I'm sorry, 3 pairs of dreams. And that's why we're talking about them. This becomes a major structure to the Joseph story. And that's why it's so good for us to remember these dreams. They move the story along. What if the cupbearer had not? We speculated about this. What if the cupbearer had remembered Joseph? And then 2 years later, Pharaoh had these dreams. Would they have been able to find Joseph? Would they have known exactly where he was? Probably not. So who is ultimately behind everything that happens to Joseph? He didn't make the brothers sell Joseph into slavery, but God was right there every step of the way. All right, let's finish 12 through 15. 500. Ooh, this is going to be hard. This one's going to be so hard. I bet Jennifer can't answer this one. What happened to Abraham when he was 75, when he was 86, when he was 99, and when he was 100? These dates are actually mentioned in Genesis. So when ma'am? God called him at 75 from Haran to Canaan. That's in Genesis 12. When Abraham was 86 years old, what happened? Well, he did, but what happened when Abraham was 86? Ishmael was born. When he was 99, what happened? Okay. 2 men came to Abraham and said, this time next year, Sarah's going to have a kid. And what was their reaction to that? Listen, I'm 99. Sarah is 10 years younger than me. She is 89 years old. It is impossible for her to have a kid. But what happened a year from that time? she, as a 90-year-old woman, had a kid. Oh, I answered the question, didn't I? So what happened when Abraham was 100? Isaac was born. How old was Isaac? How many more years was it before God called Abraham to sacrifice Isaac? We don't know, but obviously old enough for Isaac to be able to understand what was going on. And that's in Genesis 22. Okay. We're doing good. We may get through all these questions, even though I keep talking. Trying to review, trying to reinforce.
United Kingdom 3.
United Kingdom 3. What king said, I have sinned against the Lord? This is a little bit of a trick question. David did. What other king said, I have sinned against the Lord? Saul. When David said it in 2 Samuel 11, God forgave him. When Saul said it in 1 Samuel 15, God did not forgive him. Why not? They both said the same words, I have sinned against the Lord. Why did God take the kingdom away from Saul at that moment, at that point? He wasn't sincere. And you look at the details there, he's trying to save face. And God knew his heart. 2 Samuel 11, even though the sin was involving murder and a cover-up, God still forgave him. You will not die. Should David have died after even though he's the king, he committed adultery, he committed murder. Should he have been killed according to the law of Moses? You bet. But God did not. Does that mean David got off scot-free? No. The sword shall never depart from your house. And that's when all the trouble started for David. Clark, you started us off. You want to pick one? Divided kingdom for 200. You going to answer it like a question for me? How did Elijah die? What? He didn't? You got to explain that. He was taken up how? In style. A chariot of fire. Was that a Chevy? Who made that? How did Elijah die? Okay, that was a 200. That was pretty easy. Let's do 300. To which king are the southern kings often compared? I already answered that. What is David? Shouldn't it be who is David? Okay. 400 divided? To which king are the northern king? Oh, man. I forgot. Who are they compared to? Jeroboam. How can you remember whether it was Jeroboam or Rehoboam, which kingdom? What's an easy way to remember? I told you, the way I remember. Jeroboam does not go with Judea. Okay, that's good. I like that. The way I associated it was Rehoboam, R, and Solomon, S. R and S are right there together. So Rehoboam is the king of the southern kingdom. Rehoboam is the grandson of David. It's Rehoboam who continues the Davidic dynasty. R and S go together, but I like that. Jeroboam does not go with Judah. So hopefully that will help. All right, let's do the 500. Divided kingdom 500. The dates of the 3 deportations. I think this is really important, and I think you need to be able to just rattle them off so that you're able to hang other things on these events and know when when Daniel prophesied, for example, when Jeremiah prophesied. But what are the 3 deportations? Anybody remember? I'm going to tell them to you, and you're going to remember them. 605, 597, 586 BC. Let's do that again. 605 BC, 597 BC, 586 BC. Who was taken in the first deportation? What famous person was taken in the first deportation to Babylon? Daniel. Does that help us then date the book of Daniel? If we can remember these 3 dates, 605, 597, 586. Daniel taken in 605. Who was taken in the second deportation to Babylon? To the river Kibar. Not D, but E. His name starts with an E. Ezekiel. Does that help us date the book of Ezekiel? It also helps us date Jeremiah, because Jeremiah was right there during this time period. 586 BC, it wasn't a deportation per se. What happened everybody else was taken, yes, but what monumental event happened in 586 BC? What was destroyed? The temple. The temple was completely destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. And the remainder of the people, Judah was destroyed. It was gone. Who destroyed the northern kingdom? Assyria. And the Assyrians were defeated by the Babylonians. Who defeated the Babylonians? Persians. That's right. Is that important for Bible history? Absolutely. We need to know that. We need to know all these things. Who destroyed the Persian Empire? The Greeks in the 300s. Alexander the Great. And then the Greeks gave way to the Romans. And that's where we'll stop. Clark, pick one for us. All right, let's finish out United Kingdom. 400. I'm saving the 500 for you. What was the chant that the women sang about Saul and David? It occurs 3 times across 1st and 2nd Samuel. Saul has slain his thousands, but David his 10,000s. Now, when that chant first appeared in 1 Samuel 18, how many people had David actually killed? 1. The Hebrews, they like their comparatives. You know, if you got 1,000 here, well, 10,000. And Saul is listening to that, and he's saying, this is my new general in my army. He is my new son-in-law. David is my new son-in-law. I just love David. He's just so wonderful. They're singing this great chant about my military hero. I'm so glad I have David on my side. No, that's not what happened. When Saul heard this chant, Saul has slain his thousands. Yeah, that's me. That's me. They're talking about me. And David his 10,000s. How did that make him feel? Jealous. And over time, what happened? I mean, Saul lost it. He just went crazy. Okay, 500. You got this one? Name the prophets who anointed Saul, David, and Solomon. Maybe this isn't as significant, but I hope it will help us remember some details. Samuel anointed Saul. Who anointed David? Samuel. Who anointed Solomon? This is the real, this may be a little harder. Starts with an N. Nathan. I think I heard somebody say it. Yeah, and if that'll jog our memory a little bit, there was some espionage there, wasn't there? Who was Solomon's mom? Bathsheba. Was Solomon next in line? He was not. But she kind of, it seems, felt like David owed her. And we're going to put Solomon on the throne. Of course, God was also behind it, but there was some espionage involved with that. All right, we just got a few minutes left. Let's knock through these. 100 through 400. Let's just do it. How did God appear to Job? How did God appear to Job? How did God appear to Job? Whirlwind. So we're Job through Malachi. Now, how did God appear to Moses? Burning bush. To Job, do you remember what chapters that is? Job, I think it starts in chapter 37. And tell me about it. 38. The Lord answered Job. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Dress for action like a man, I will question you, and you make it known to me. Can you imagine playing Bible Jeopardy with God? I think he'd win. Pretty sure he would. Yeah, they start asking, or God starts asking Job all these questions. Hey, how did you do this, Job? How did you make the world? How did you make everything that's in the world? Do you have any idea? How would you do that? And what is God's point? Is God answering Job, let me tell you about why you're suffering. Does God ever tell Job why he's suffering? What does God do instead? He says, let me tell you who I am and what you're not. And how does Job respond in the end? Does he get all mad? He's scared to death, I'm sure, but he's repentant. He said, I am but dust and ashes. And God blesses Job in the end. I better stop so we can keep going. 200. Which poetic books did Solomon author? We got Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon. Which ones did he author? He had a hand in all of them except Job. So answer your question. Say, the main one is Proverbs. Ecclesiastes identifies the author as King of Israel, son of David. It doesn't actually name him. What about Song of Solomon? The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. And what's it about? What's the Song of Solomon about? It's about Christ and the church. No, that's not what it's about. You could make a parallel, I suppose, but what is it really about? Human sexual love, the sanctity of marriage. We ran out of time when we were talking about this, but in the Song of Solomon, it talks a lot about the sanctity of the marriage relationship. Do not awaken love. Do not stir up love until it pleases. We'll have a sermon about that at some point, I know. 300 for Job through Malachi, almost done here. Which prophet predicted the 70-year Babylonian captivity? Jeremiah. Did the people believe Jeremiah? Hey, Babylon is going to defeat the southern kingdom of Judah. Babylon's going to do it. They didn't believe him. When it did happen, did they think, oh, the temple's still standing? The temple's still standing, and so that means God's going to let us go back here any day now. They didn't believe Jeremiah, but it took 70 years. Okay. And I think this is our last question. What is the most common classification of psalms? This is 400. What do we say? I've said this a couple of times. The lament. Now, what would you think it would be? Praise. But the most common category of psalm is the lament. What does that tell you? You're not alone. You're not the only one who wakes up and says, God, what's going on with my life or with our world? What are some other classifications of psalms? Praise, of course. Messianic psalms. We talked about that. Psalms that foreshadow and predict details about Jesus. The Psalms. Do you know what is, from the Old Testament, for sure, the most popular book in the Bible? It is Psalms, and it's a great book. Why? Why is Psalms so popular? Why do people like it so much? Yeah, because we can relate to it so well. It has so many emotions. All right, I do have a bonus. I do have a final Jeopardy. And here it is. Who is your favorite Bible class teacher of all time? Oh, no, that wasn't it. That wasn't it. Quote Genesis 3:15. Remember that verse that we talked about? I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. That is such an important verse, and I hope if you haven't committed it to memory, you will. And it's in Romans 16 where Paul is ending his letter to them, and he says, God will soon crush Satan under your feet. And the devil may be the prince of the air, but he will be defeated in the end, all because of this grand scheme of redemption that started way back in the opening chapters of the Bible. Thanks for going through the Old Testament with me. Next week, we will begin our survey of the New Testament. See how much you know?